Oscar Q. Zilch. Do you have any good stories about someone getting busted for joking and degrading? Oh, right. Joking and degrading. That is a Scientology policy that basically states, actually, it's a bulletin, where Hubbard basically says that people who laugh at Scientology or any subject matter that they're involved in when they shouldn't be, or which is a serious thing, they're joking and degrading, and it's actually a sign of psychosis, right? Hubbard did not appreciate people laughing at him or at Scientology. He called it a deadly serious activity. Only the tigers survive, and even they have a hard time. These are things Hubbard used to describe the seriousness with which Scientology should be considered. Now, the double bind in Scientology is at the same time he introduces this concept of the spirit of play and says that anybody who's too serious and solid is not going to ever get anything done and is kind of an idiot. So, there's your double bind, right? But joking and degrading was a real serious thing. And in fact, I believe it might even be listed as one of the crimes you can commit in Scientology. It's just not okay to be joking about it. And of course, by joking, we mean, putting it down, punching, down, I guess, on Scientology, or making fun of it, ridiculing the practice of it in any way, something like that. And this included, and here I'm going to give you a real example now. And this is what's real standout for me because it was pretty funny. In Scientology, there's a word called cognition. Now, in the real world, cognition is a word that represents thought or thinking or the process of, neurons moving around and stuff like that. That is what we think of in psychology or in neuroscience as cognition, is when that process is going on. But in Scientology, a cognition is a special thing. It is a certain sudden realization or sudden coming to knowledge or awareness on a particular subject or thing. So you could have a cognition in a session, and in fact, auditing sessions are not ended until you have a cognition of some kind. You have to. It's one of the 4 things you have to experience in order for an auditing process to be completed. Any auditing process. It's a floating needle, cognition, let's see, FN, VG, very good indicators, and a release. Bing, the mental mass is gone. It released. So FN, a floating needle on the e-meter, a cognition. Oh, hey, what do you know? I didn't know this before, but now, or, oh, I didn't realize until now my mother actually loved me. I thought she hated me all this time, That's called a cognition, or a cog. And Scientologists love having and talking about their cognitions or their cogs, okay? However, there was a joking and degrading term that went around for a long time that was called a Bognition. Okay, a Bognition. This is not a Hubbard term, it's not a Scientology term, it's not authorized, it's a joke. And it's viewed by Scientology officials as not acceptable. You do not talk about Bognitions or spread that around. And a Bognition, of course, is where you have a realization about something, but it makes you feel worse. Oh, I guess she hates me. That's a Bognition, right? Yeah, you have a sudden realization, but you feel worse. You feel bogged, right? As though you're put in a swamp, right? As a result of that. So this was a very funny term, and a lot of us laughed about this and spread this around. But there was a guy. There's a method in Scientology of using an e-meter to trace down and investigate where things like that come from. They call it rollback. I've done videos about it before. You can find it on my Critical Clips channel. If you look up what is rollback, you'll find a video on it. But that procedure can be used to trace down who's been saying what to who. And it's basically a method of tracking down rumors or black propaganda, as Hubbard calls it. So you put a person on a meter and you say, okay, so you've been using this word Bognition. Where'd you hear this from? Who told you this, right? And the guy goes, I don't remember. Well, we're going to sit here until you do. So come up with a name, right? Where'd you come up with this? Oh, it was Joe Schmo, right? And then they go and get Joe Schmo and they put him on the meter. Okay, you've been spreading this word Bognition around. You're a bad Scientologist. You're a very bad person. How dare you make these jokes? where'd you hear that from, right? Trace it back down to where it came from. And it was found in this particular case, if I'm remembering this right, that the guy who ended up spreading this word all over the United States was a registrar, a sales guy, a Sea Org member from ASHO, from the American St. Hill. They would send, as part of their week-to-week operations, they would send tours around to the orgs all over the West and East U.S. and Latin America, too. And the American St. Hill covers Canada, Latin America, and the United States. So they would send salespeople around, regs, to the various Scientology churches and try to sell them, St. Hill services. And in doing so, this one reg spread this word all over the place because he thought it was hilarious, and he would joke about it to people, and they would pick it up, and here's a Sea Org member joking about a Bognition, so they start joking about it, and it spreads around, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on, right? And that's how it spread. So when they finally got people on an e-meter and they took it down to where'd this come from, it went back to this reg. Now, he had not invented the term, but he got busted hard for spreading it all over the place. So that was a story about that. About somebody getting busted for J&D. That's what they call it, J&D. And he had to do a whole ethics handling and write up all of his overts and withholds and, get straight on spreading disaffection and joking and degrading, because that's how they took it. They took it very seriously. And that's the story I have to relate to you about that. There you go.